This is the Brain Software Podcast, episode number 248. We are coming at you from the Hypnotic World Epicenter, Toronto, Canada. I am Chris Thompson, and today Jeff Mandel, Mike Mandel, and I are going to examine poor communication and what you can do about it. So stay with us.
Disclaimer. Although we'd love to give you something useful in this disclaimer, like a thoughtful caveat, instead, I'm just going to say Lucci. So here we go. Lucci.
Hey, Scro, what's going down, Pouch? Things are so good up here in level 42. I was just hanging out with Timothy Leary. Can you dig it? This is far out, man.
But, Dave, whatever happened to that old tranquility we used to know? That's what I want to know.
These are days of victory. So open up that barrel of pork because there's going to be some extra old cheddar cheese served up tonight with a glass of some awesome Irish whiskey. But first, here he is, the man with the world's scariest hypnosis office. A man who could easily beat Franz Anton Mesmer in the Hypnoctagon. Come to think of it, so could I. And he's becoming a hypnotic instrumentalist because he is the Keith Richards of hypnosis. Mike Mandel, everybody.
Yes, Christopher. Fantastic.
Mike Mandel, everybody.
It was nice, very nicely done. The man with the world's scariest hypnosis office. You know where that comes from?
Oh, that comes from the Dolly ChatGPT generator
when
thing,
I said,
right?
Make me a Victorian-era hypnotist office with heavy drapes in black and purple, and it was just fantastic. Gave me about 4 different ones.
My goodness, you can have a heck of a lot of fun with the AI tools out there from OpenAI, ChatGPT, and stuff. And yeah, like I uploaded a picture of my family great room and said, "Hey, can you reimagine this?" And
I know,
it was really cool. You start asking for really cool wallpapers for like hypnosis office and different stuff. And of course, our Sunday newsletters, you just took the whole newsletter last Sunday and said, can you make an image that would go along with this? And it was the one on reality tunnels, right?
Yes.
It's so neat. You don't even have to describe the image. You just go, here's the newsletter that I wrote. Please give me an image.
And I said, make sure it takes in the whole concept of reality tunnels. And that was it. It gave me 2, and either one was perfect.
It's a lot of fun. It's almost like getting to ask an assistant to come up with ideas for you that you wouldn't have thought of based on some information here. Just give me another angle on this. Go, oh, that's really neat. So really cool. Anyway,
nice.
We're going to talk in this podcast about communication. It's not about AI.
No.
And all these different types of people and how to communicate, especially when the other person isn't doing a good job.
Right.
And how can you steer things in a useful direction? Before we do that, Mike, though, we have our think tank words.
We do. And these are from Savo Bokacek's specific think tank word generator. And the first one is constellation, the second is magnitude, and the third is invisibility. So take it away, Chris.
Okay, constellation, I think about, obviously it means something to astronomers or whatever. I just think about the gathering of similar things. So whether it be similar people, we gather at a convention, or similar friends gathering at a party. That's the way I'm thinking of it in my mind.
Do you like the way I use that? Just to nod in agreement, and then just
nod and then
turn it into shaking my head. No, I don't.
That was very funny. I like that.
Well, that's good. Constellation. Yeah, you look at things.
What do you get?
Well, you can look at things like Cassiopeia, which my dad taught me to see as a kid, which looks like a W. Constellations they have a permanence to them. They're out of reach, but are they useful? Well,
I don't know.
I guess with Polaris, the North Star, I don't know if it's in a specific constellation. I think it's on the tail of the little dipper or some damn thing. Anyway, we'll come back to constellation because stars all have different magnitudes, right?
Yeah, magnitude being the second word here, and magnitude just meaning, like size. You can think of it as size. So how big is something?
How big it is.
Yeah, how big is something? How big? We're doing the air quotes now. Oh, that's really funny. I was just looking back at photos from when we first attended Hypnothoughts Live.
Oh, yeah.
And we were out at the pool and at the Orleans Hotel, and it said something like no loitering on the ramp, so-called ramp, or whatever it was.
Horrible, unnecessary quotes.
Magnitude, okay.
How big is something?
How big is something? Because a lot of the times, I think we frame our problems as if they are enormous.
Oh, totally
and they
agree.
really aren't.
And this will show up in the type of people we're going to be dealing with.
And if you think about NLP and submodalities,
we're talking about SUDs.
We can imagine pushing that out. And it doesn't seem so big and problematic.
Push it out where
or we can physically
constellation is.
change its size. Yeah,
its magnitude.
Right, there you go.
Now, what about invisibility?
Invisibility makes me think of
I just can't see this one.
when I was little, a lot of the times, and I think this bothers me, when people don't listen to me, I feel invisible.
Oh, I know you go
right?
freaking crazy.
Yeah. There you go. So there's a lot of people, I think, if they feel like whoever they're interacting with just is doing a crap job of listening, they feel invisible. Like, why am I even here kind of thing. So what about you?
I'm listening really well.
Yeah, what do you got for invisibility?
Invisibility, I think we have blind spots to communication problems in
blind
ourselves.
spots.
They're invisible to us. We need to always turn our corrective lens on ourselves as well, because often we are the biggest offenders. And when I say we're the biggest offenders, I really mean
You're the biggest offenders.
Yes. But anyway, but I think it needs to be done. And well, here's the talking points.
Okay.
Everybody, as we're looking at communication skills or the lack thereof, you need the Jedi questions.
About
Everybody
beliefs.
needs these 2 questions.
Yeah.
These get you through so much stuff. People jump down your throat. Well, you think that your 2 Jedi questions are, how did you come to believe that? You're looking for their evidence criteria. How did they even come to think that was true in the first place? And then you say, how do you know it's true?
That's your evidence criteria. So one is a question about history,
but it's,
and one
it's
is a
also
question about evidence.
It's how did they come to that evidence criteria? Right?
Yes.
So one is how or when did you first believe that?
What happened to cause you to believe that this is
And
true, and how do you know it's true?
And then you get the idiotic answers. Well, I just know. I mean, come on, guys.
Well, if that's all you know, you're missing so much.
Oh, the all I know, yeah. So here's the general rule when you're dealing with miscommunicators and poor communicators. Don't interrupt them. Let them rant if they're ranting. Wait for a pause in the conversation. Ask for clarification. And sometimes you may have to use the agree and repeat strategy that we've taught many, many times. Well, I know how you feel, but we have to move on from this. Yeah, well, you're probably right, but we have to move on from this just through sheer repetition.
You're making a really good point here that I want to just expand briefly on this here and tell you that we've never talked about this.
No.
But we often get emails and criticism on the podcast because we interrupt each other a lot because we're high energy, we're having a good time.
Yeah.
My proposal, to borrow a word from our last, is when people are getting along and having a great time and high energy, they will naturally interrupt, and the flow just kind of is a bumpy continuance of fun, and we'll interrupt each other all the time. That's kind of the okay time to do it. But when you're in a discussion with someone where there's a disagreement, it's never a good idea to interrupt.
And when people are highly emotional, you want them to have a chance to ventilate this stuff.
You will come across as the stronger, smarter, more confident person by waiting until the other person's done. You will come across weaker and whinier if you're, well, you said that, no, that's not true. You come across as
stable and sane.
Or the opposite of that if you're doing the interruption.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. So that's my thought on it. What do you think of that?
Oh, I think you're exactly right. I think I've learned over the years not to interrupt my wife so much because I would think quickly, so I'd be finishing her sentences. And that's not what I was going to say. It's terrible.
And it's like if you're getting along on a topic and you're enjoying the conversation, it's one thing. But if you're having a disagreement, bad idea, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yes.
I think there's a Saturday Night Live commercial for bad idea. Bad idea jeans. It was like a jeans company. Bad idea jeans. Whenever I say bad idea, I want to say jeans after it now. Like denim, not genetics.
Where did you see that?
I think it was Saturday Night
Scary
Live.
thing it was Al Pierce? Okay, look. Good old Al. So not old. Passive aggressives. Let's start with these idiots. Passive aggressives, they feel weak, so they use subtle means to be aggressive towards other people, often to push their buttons. And it's a terrible, terrible trait. When they'll say something and they'll say, and they just, I don't even know how to do it because I'm not passive aggressive.
Yeah, I can't even think of a really.
But passive aggressives, they don't give your people's message to you. Oh, I thought you meant. Oh, you said this. Well, didn't you?
I just assumed you'd meet us there.
Yeah, all of that stuff, and it comes out of anger. That's a thing to realize. It's a feeling of being impotent.
Okay, so if somebody's passive aggressive towards you, then you can reframe it as realizing, well, they're just angry in some way in their life. It's not about me. It's about them.
Right.
And either disconnect from toxic people, or what can I do to support this person?
Ask questions to draw them out.
help
That's
them
an
be-
unusual thing to say. Like, I'll give you a classic example of passive aggression. A number of years ago, I hung out with a bunch of guys and we used to play chess. We didn't play with chess clocks though back then. And the one guy, he was a little bast. He was a bast. He would, if he was losing the game, would just sit there and not move. And his opponent would go, come on, make your move. And he'd say, I am moving. And just not move. And 10 minutes, make your move. I am moving. And eventually the other guy would just give up the game. So that way he didn't lose.
Oh, that's so frustrating.
It's just really, that's passive aggression. You can't win. So you just, anyway, ask specific questions, draw them out, point it out. That's a very common thing. You don't have to be mean. What about negative people, Chris?
Okay.
The people, just everything, the negative, the cup is always half empty.
Yeah, and in fact, I'm going to be negative right now and say we have so many different types of people. We're going to have to rush in the rushery through this. So what do you do with negative people? Well, you can exaggerate, right?
Exaggerate the negativity
to make
the
a bit
ridiculous.
of a joke about it. Like, oh, you're right, that would never work. In fact, I know somebody who tried that once and they ended up on the bottom of the ocean floor or something. No, I don't know.
I know, it's crazy. But when you hear negativity, focus on the positive aspects of the situation. Refocus their brain.
Ask them, are you sure about that? How sure are you about that negative outcome? Yeah.
Well, yeah. You can say,
asking them about the positive.
The Tony Robbins question. What's good about this? What's great about this? Well, nothing. Okay, what could be great about it?
That actually works.
It does
it's
work.
It's a pattern interrupt that we often throw out as a joke, but it legitimately works. When someone's complaining, you say, what could be great about this? You know, aren't you glad in a weird kind of way? Aren't you glad in a weird kind of way? And it pisses people off until they laugh and go, actually, I guess I am kind of glad in a weird kind of way.
McDowell,
it's a really weird kind
glasses.
of way.
He's so troubled.
Yeah.
Are you glad in a way? No. Like 15 minutes it would take me working at him. Come on, in a weird, finally go, I guess I am glad I broke them in a really weird kind of way. And then we could laugh about it. Now, look, sometimes people are so negative, it's just too much trouble. If people are pathologically negative, always dragging you down. I said we had a friend, we should go see this movie. It's when Twister came out. I like things about
the parking,
tornadoes.
there'll probably be no parking.
There probably won't be any parking. It's like, okay, let's just deflate everything. Yeah, sometimes it's too much trouble. What about histrionic personality?
What does that even mean?
Histrionics are forced and faked emotions.
Oh, like overly dramatic?
Oh, yeah. And some people love drama. A very good friend of mine historically went out with significant others who loved drama.
So you could do the director's cut intervention.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Cut. Okay, this time when you hit your marks, I need you to put even more feeling into it. And you need to express to John here more directly how you feel about it.
Well, that's good.
Action.
With these people, you've got to keep their conversation focused on facts rather than emotions. You'll run into this a lot with Enneagram Type 4 because emotions rule the day. And remember, they have no boundaries or walls between their emotions and the universe. So if they feel like crap, the universe is crap. If they feel great, you should feel great too.
And they want you to know about it.
Remaining calm can make the other person sound like a lunatic. This is a good defense. If people are histrionic and exaggerated emotions and freaking out, and I saw a woman who played violin show up at a convention, an entertainment convention, and she said, I've got a $10,000 stage costume, and I need somewhere to put it on. I am just totally freaking out here. She's just checking into a hotel. It's like, it's not that important.
Freaking out. I'm overwhelmed by not knowing where I'll put my costume.
Yeah.
Oh, there might be a closet somewhere in this hotel.
Yeah, there could be. Yeah. Remain calm. It makes the other person seem like a lunatic. Let them vent all their craziness. Be alert for sudden topic changes and point them out. When you start to score points with people who are saying ridiculous things, they immediately change the topic and say,
do you ever go, topic change?
Yep.
Topic change?
Topic change detected. Yeah. Losing on one point, moves to another. That's a great one to do.
I like that. Like you're the third party narrator.
And then you can add just the tie tug, you know.
Yeah. Not very interesting.
Yeah, the invisible tie. What about chronic complainers, Chris? Some people, this is sort of negativity, but some people aren't just negative. They complain about everything.
Yeah.
You know, the napkin wasn't in the right spot on the table, or the wine was crap. And some people just do that. So you have to acknowledge that they're feeling bad and have to keep complaining. But it's very unpleasant to be around chronic complainers. They screw your life up. So the meta model works very well. What specifically went wrong? How particularly does this cause a problem for you? Ask the questions until it falls apart and seems ridiculous.
And you can also do the what would you like to have happen? But now that this experience is over, what would you like to have happen? because you can't go back and change the past, obviously, but you can get them focused on the positive, right? You want to encourage people to focus on the positive, not the negative. The complain, all negative. What would you like to have happen? If they're complaining in the moment about a negative thing.
Well, I want him to apologize. And is that likely to happen?
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, what are you planning on doing about it? Are you gonna express your feelings and ask for the apology, or are you just gonna let it go? It's totally up to you, right?
Catastrophizers are terrible. You find that catastrophizers make extreme predictions, so you have to contrast with realistic scenarios.
Right.
And what if?
What happened the last time this happened?
Yeah.
Or what was the result of the last time? And they,
is it possible that you might be wrong? No. Have you ever been wrong?
Yeah.
And the other one I like to use if people are catastrophizers, they'll say, I realize this is really important and powerful to you, but I'm not going there with you because I'm having a good day.
Yeah.
I tug at the tie again. What about interrupters? These people drive. You're going to interrupt right away. I know you will.
Oh, I actually wasn't going to.
I'm just giving you your URL here.
Well, was it this podcast or the last one where I said, because we're recording them back to back, in case you haven't noticed, Mike changed his shirt though, just so it wasn't so obvious.
Giving it away.
But did I say in this one or the last one that interrupting is great when you're high energy having fun like us in our podcast?
I don't even remember.
I can't remember if it was this one or the last one.
This is how hard we work for you.
But interrupting people is definitely something you don't want to do in a disagreement. You want to let the other person finish and seem more calm. And that way, they're also more likely to listen to you when they're done. You can say, that's a great point. Is there anything else you need to say? Like, you can even invite them to continue talking. That I hear you, especially XYZ point.
Oh, man.
Is there anything else that you need to get off your chest before I respond?
This one, you're very good, because this one could drive me nuts. You have to politely assert your need to finish speaking.
Right.
Like something like, I'd like to finish my thought. Or my favorite one, that was a comma, not a period.
Yeah.
Still talking, still in the middle of the same sentence.
Yeah. I'm sorry, did the middle of my sentence interrupt the beginning of yours?
No, that's not bad.
That's a good one.
But the worst I ever heard this was on CFRB radio in Toronto. There was someone there doing an interview of a famous person. I won't give any more information than that. But every time he was asked a question, her response was to interrupt his answer and say, oh yeah, because I thought that, and go off into some other thing.
Yeah.
And then ask him another question. She really breathless and just so excited, and let people finish what the heck they're saying.
Yeah.
Don't interrupt
I
them.
sometimes get a little bit sarcastic and very
really?
direct, though. It's like,
That's unusual.
I noticed you just asked me a question there, and I'm interested in, do you really want to hear the answer?
Oh, that's harsh. Very harsh.
Yeah.
Scary? No, I
Just
don't
be
think it was
direct. Make your clear point,
Okay, we're still right. That's a very good point. Let's rock into this one. Mockers, the kind of smirking people who get their kicks by taking you down a peg in front of other people. Can be done at a party. You show up at a party of friends or colleagues at work, and someone, he's had a few drinks and he wants to look really funny and hilarious. And he'll say something like, that's a nice jacket. And you say, thanks. And how long do you have to wear it to win the bet? This kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then to which my answer is always the same. You enjoy hospital food, don't you? Always threatening violence.
You have another great comeback, though, that is not threatening in any way.
Okay.
Yeah. What is it?
I don't know. What is it?
The personal issues.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, I've got it here. Yeah. So when someone's
you did write it
smirking
down.
or mocking, they're a liability. Respond with neutrality. Don't become defensive. Once you're defensive, you're on the ropes and they're scoring hits.
Bingo.
So use humor to diffuse it. If the person takes some shot at you in public, say, sounds like someone's dealing with some personal issues. And when you say it, you look at the other people knowingly, implying this is something you've all discussed before. Their paranoia will take over. Act like you're reminding the others of something that you've discussed in depth. Someone's dealing with some personal issues. And you smile at the others like they're, we talked about. That's great. That'll derail the person. What about gaslighters, Chris? This is one of the most evil things of all.
Okay, talk about gaslighting.
Okay, so gaslighting comes from the movie Gaslight, which was a very old black and white film, but it was brilliant. This woman, her husband is trying to drive her crazy, and she notices the gas lights dim every night. And he was actually, I think, going into another building through the attic. And when he turned the light on,
they're dimming.
And he'd say, "What are
you talking about?
What is wrong with your mind?" The doctor's I've been talking to him, trying to drive her insane,
making her believe,
that
or
she's
causing her to believe that she's
So they try to make you feel like you're losing your mind. And it's a terrible thing. And people do it in relationships. We've had this discussion, Doreen. We talked about this for an hour last night. Don't you remember? And they look concerned.
And they haven't talked about it.
No. Yeah. So you trust your perception and reaffirm your understanding of the facts. Keep conversations grounded in reality and enlist allies you can trust. Am I losing my freaking mind? No, of course not. Here's what's happening in this conversation. They're referring to other things. And carefully track conversations and information with this person so you know absolutely what was said, what was not said. And remember, gaslighters lie. They lie all the time. So how about gaslighting the gaslighter? So I'm big on spinning things back on people.
Yeah,
Make them think they're going insane.
All right, we are going to talk about narcissists.
Narcissism is a terrible thing. Narcissists always put themselves in the spotlight no matter what you're talking about. If you're talking about, your mother just died yesterday and you're really broken and you're hoping you can unload this with your friend, you say, oh, my mom passed away yesterday. He'll say, oh, I was at a funeral one year. I was in Mexico and it was on the beach. It was really a cool situation.
I thought you were going to slip into Raymond Reddington.
No, but they've changed the whole topic.
Yeah.
It always becomes a self-reference. And no matter what you're endeavoring to ventilate or whatever, and that's the heart of narcissism.
Yeah.
Slash, the guitarist, who I greatly respect, got one of his picks. He threw it to me in a concert. Slash
in
said
his book,
about
right?
Axl Rose. He said, he's a guy who never, ever, for 1 minute, accepted that he ever did anything wrong. Ever. No matter what it was.
And we've talked about the self-referencing thing is interesting because it doesn't always come from narcissism, but it can come from wanting to have rapport, wanting to have a connection. So somebody starts talking about something and you go, oh yeah, I went there on vacation once also. Now you're talking about, instead of their vacation, your own vacation.
Yeah, change the topic.
And you're not meaning to be talking about yourself. You're meaning to express connection in some way, but you have to recognize it and still not do it. It's a bad
Absolutely.
idea. Yeah.
Remember, I said self-reference is a major giveaway. Narcissists need something called narcissistic supply. They need to be either adored, and if they don't get it from hearing how great they are and how wonderful they are, like one friend of mine was super dickish. He had an acoustic guitar and he strummed a few chords. Excuse me, edit that out or not. I remember saying that from the Cradle, the Eric Clapton album, I said, man, that really got me to like his blues stuff. I said, he's a brilliant guitarist. Guy looks at me totally seriously and he says, well, don't you think I'm a brilliant guitarist? And he wasn't kidding. He just desperately needs the narcissistic supply. I don't give it. Here's my final point on this. I know someone who is a classic narcissist, knows everything about everything, even if he's never studied it to any degree, and is always talking about how great he is and how smart he is. And he lived on his cousin's couch for 2 years in his house coat, and sit in his underwear. His life sucked, but he was brilliant and great. What about control freaks, Chris? Let me finish the point. Scary?
Yeah. Control freaks.
Okay, I'll give you an example.
Yeah, I'm not sure the context exactly here.
Okay, I'll
so
give
I'm
you
not
good
sure what
context.
To say. Yeah.
I've got a very good friend, but I never tell him if we're doing anything.
Okay.
Like, for instance, I've ordered a piano, a very nice piano that we're waiting to have arrive.
Oh, I know exactly what
I
you
know
mean.
what I'm talking about.
Yes.
If I said, we've ordered a pen, cancel it immediately.
Yeah, you need to read this and this.
Deal.
Yeah.
I'll call this guy. We're going to, we'll get you a used one. You don't need a new one. No,
Would you say that's control freak or just like... He has this attitude because I don't think he's a control freak. I know what you're talking about.
Ones are control
I think
freaks.
Maybe I'm just thinking of it differently. I'm thinking of it like he means well, really well, and he wants to share his knowledge before you make your decision.
Right, but he does it by controlling.
By trying to control, yeah. And you have to... So, okay, in those situations, I think you just have to remember to stand your ground.
Oh, here's how I do it.
I'm sure that's true. And I've already done it.
That'll work. I put it in a humorous way. You should do this. You should do that. That's a huge control thing. You should. And I was going like this. Hang on. Nope, it's not there. What? What's not there? Your name is having access to my control panel.
That's a good one. It's not there.
It's a brilliant one. But laughingly point out they don't have access to your control panel. And Chris's mom, God bless her, I got this from her. I know she did not invent it. So
when someone tries to triangulate you.
When someone tries to triangulate, you should call him and say this. Oh, you ought to fly in to that city and fix that situation for them. You just know it's triangulation. They're putting you in charge of something that's nothing to do with you. And you use Chris's mom's line, which...
Not my circus, not my monkeys.
And it's monkeys, plural. And you just repeat as needed. It's not your freaking responsibility.
It's a great
Don't let other people's problems become your problems. Let the control freaks deal with their own stuff. What about manipulators? Classic manipulators. You've got to stay alert to their tactics. And
it's kind of like control in a way. Yeah. It's an attempt to control rather than a direct, you need to do this. It's more like a sneaky way to get you to do something.
Manipulation. Yeah. That's perfect. I'll give you 2 quick examples. There was a movie called Games, I think in the 60s by Simone Signoret. Not by her, she was in it, French actress. And this woman, I think Catherine Ross, nice, attractive woman, she's got their home, and this woman comes to the door, and she's saying, do you remember me? And all this, no. And she's saying, oh, we were friends with so-and-so, and so. Oh, we went to the same high school. And she's got this, she goes through high school yearbooks to set this up. And then she said, well, I could do, and she brings out all these little bottles. And then she said, you're a saleswoman. You're a saleswoman. And I think she had manipulated to try to feel like she had an in with someone, but in reality, it was just to sell this door-to-door stuff like Avon. But even that was manipulative, because then she starts crying that she's been caught and gets the woman.
Oh, like feel bad for me for getting caught for being a dickish manipulator.
It was very good.
Yeah.
I remember I said that guy tried that with me, and I caught on finally. I was much more trusting back then. I get a phone call from a guy. We'll call him Tim. No, it's not Timothy September. We'll call him Tim. And he said, oh, I've looked your number up. I haven't seen you in a few years. Oh, where do I know you from? And he mentioned places I'd worked. He said Lulu's, which was the biggest bar in the world. He used to make a ton of money doing shows there, and some other places. And it was a lot of fun. And he named some stuff, and we talked afterwards. It sounded familiar.
And then
he called me a couple of times. So one day he calls, he leaves a message. Hey, Mike, it's important. It's Tim here. I need $50,000 right away. I know you're good for it. We got that kind of friendship. I know you got the money. So here's what I want you to do. I just phoned him back. I said, who the F are you? I haven't got a clue who you are. Don't ever phone me again. Bang, it was gone. But yeah, that's manipulative. Implying that you have this. And that's the thing psychopaths do. This whole thing of we're all in this together. We're all in this snowstorm together, so you should do what I say.
Easiest way to avoid all that is to know your desired outcome. What do you want to have happen? Yeah. And do not violate that. That is your desired outcome. So somebody keeps trying to, this isn't. No. My desired outcome is the following. I'm not going to be manipulated into it.
Yeah, that's right. And, with my wife, she approaches as an Enneagram 6. All the situations with other people with suspiciousness right off the bat. So that's her outcome.
Yeah.
Not let them get away with anything. What about victims, Chris? Some people are, and God bless them, people have been victimized. I know that's a horrible
victims.
thing. Listen to me, guys. I'm in no way
taking a shot at legitimate victims of anything.
People who have been victimized. I dealt, when I was a therapist for 7 years, I dealt with this a lot, including rape victims who'd gone through absolutely horrific things, and my job was to help them process it and get over it. But some people take on the victim role, even if nothing really of note has happened to them. And that makes them the center of attention sometimes. It draws everybody's sadness in. And they'll often bring it up if somebody else is having too good an evening or something. I was having a great time playing chess with a friend of mine many years ago, and his significant other would suddenly develop an illness right in the middle. Oh, I've got a migraine headache.
Then the attention goes on to
totally
her. The night
changes
is wrecked.
everything.
She's got to go home. She needs to be taken care of. Needs to be the center of attention.
You've got to get people to realize there's steps they can take. There's things they can do. They're responsible to do their part rather than focusing on a problem. Get people out of identity and into behavior. Explain that one, buddy.
Well, yeah, it's the identity versus behavior thing. It's just like when somebody says, "Oh, I'm fat and lazy." That's an identity statement, as opposed to, "I eat too much food," behavior, and "I sit around too much," behavior.
Yeah, and behaviors are easier to
identify
dislodge.
your behavior. They're easier to change than the identity level. Give yourself a new identity to start with, and then give yourself new behaviors to match it.
Yes, a classic one is someone says, "I'm a scapegoat, I'm a scapegoat, I'm a scapegoat," instead of "I was scapegoated." That's much more empowering. So watch out for those statements. Overly critical people, Chris, criticize everything you do. They find that one flaw.
I call it the "yeah, but" people.
Oh, yes, but. Yeah.
Yeah, but, it's probably too expensive. Yeah, but that's just too difficult to do. Yeah, but it probably won't work out.
Well, I had a friend who used to go to my shows and always find something wrong with them.
Yeah.
I could get standing ovation, which I did quite often.
Yes,
I could get standing ovation, and afterwards, how was it? Oh, it was pretty good. What? Well, I noticed you stood at the left side of the stage a lot, and so now here's the little button hook, and I get this beautiful sweater. Let's work a hole in it.
Oh, I know exactly. I know what you mean.
So if people are critical, listen openly. Don't be afraid to take their advice if it's appropriate and if it's correct. They might be correct, but if they're not, don't take it on.
And
as
if
your own.
they're annoying in their criticism, stop asking for it. And if they volunteer it,
and that's interesting too.
That's interesting. I don't recall asking.
Stop asking for their point of view. Yeah. And that's a very interesting thing, because if it's someone close to you and you're getting criticized a lot, you will have a human need to hear some affirmation from them.
Yeah.
But the problem is chasing the affirmation will often lead to more criticism. You have to let it bounce off you.
I like your point here that they may be correct. So
yeah, they might be correct.
There could be legit feedback here that you should be open to.
And look at it, and look at it in NLP terms. And criticism.
Step outside.
Step
third
outside.
Person.
It's only feedback. It's only feedback that you're free to adopt or ignore, whatever. How about non-listeners and outzoners? People who zone out.
ADD
like Jackie
boy.
Oates.
ADD boy. Yeah, I like that one that you came up with.
I did that on stage. I was doing actually a show on a Great Lakes cruise for doctors from a pharmaceutical company. I did a mentalism show, and I was doing my human lie detector. I told you this. I got a medical doctor sitting there, and I'm doing the human lie detector. It's an amazing effect, and I'm catching him in lies. And he's turned around, he's talking to someone in the front row, commenting on something they just shouted. And I smacked him in the side of the head. I went, "Hey, ADD boy, over here."
Yeah.
He looked at me in shock. I said, "You want me to write you a Ritalin prescription?" It was fantastic. Hey, ADD boy, over here.
Buddy, this is not part of the agenda, but I want you to just tell this story to the camera anyway, because this is so funny. It's another one about you being on stage, and there was a guy heckling in the audience. And so what did you do?
He looked a bit odd. This guy wouldn't shut up. It was in a high school late one night. The local community was in. It was like late 1970s. The guy kept yelling stuff at me. He kept yelling stuff, and he wouldn't stop. You know, he thought he was contributing to the show. And I just looked at him, and in the microphone, my attitude was always, a man with a microphone has the advantage. And I looked at this guy, and I said, "You cut your own hair, don't you?" And he had unusual hair. He went, "What?" I said, "You cut your own hair. And you make your own clothes, too." Everybody just howled with laughter. He shut up for the rest of the show.
That's a great one.
All right.
And speaking of social media, since we're going to be snipping a lot of this stuff into clips, that is a clippable moment right there.
What about
make your own clothes?
Non-listeners and outzoners. People are zoning out in the outzonery, like Jack the frickin' outzoner. You've got to get their attention, and that's the one, just like that.
Hello?
The medical doctor. Yeah. Richard Bandler would knock the pictures out of the air. He said people start visualizing when you're talking.
We just say like, "Oh, I'm sorry, am I interrupting nap time?"
My Aunt Sheila used to say, if somebody went on and on, she'd say, "Excuse me, you're boring me." She was brilliant. She was brilliant. Direct. She was another Enneagram 9. Yeah. She was brilliantly funny. She's the one at Christmas. Worked to get my aunt a nice Christmas present. She goes, "Oh, what a disappointment."
That's really good.
Funny. Okay.
It's so British. I love it.
Well, she was a Brit. Yeah, like me. When someone's zoning out, simplify your messages and ask for their input, or wave your arms.
Yes,
and
it's just like in hypnosis when people go, "How do I get my clients to stop falling asleep?" Engage them in the session. Yeah. Don't have them freaking lie down while you talk at them for an hour.
Yeah, well, the bear's nice. What about blamers, Chris? If people blame you for stuff that is not your responsibility, just simply do not accept the blame. Just say, "I'm sorry, I'm not accepting that at all. It doesn't apply to me." Redirect the conversation. The people, I knew a guy, remember the same guy attacked me at Bayview Village? I didn't recognize me, and hair was cut. He was a big bodybuilder guy, and I'm walking down the hallway towards the men's room. He came back the other way, and the guy started to edge over, and I edged over to get away from him.
Attacked you?
Yeah, he jammed me against the wall. He knew me, but I didn't recognize me. His beard was gone.
Oh, yeah, you told me about this.
Immediately swung lateral femoral nerve strike. Bang! Get to take this guy down. The training kicks in right away.
Who was it?
Mike, it's me. He used to own a squash club.
He was just sticking around.
Yeah. But he decided he was going to be a magician for a while. And he took some magic courses.
Okay.
And he showed up at an event that Backwards Bob was at. And he was going to do the opening thing for this. And he lost his nerve before he went on. And then he was going to do it. So when it was all over, he said, "Well, I'll show you anyway." And he went up and said, he's doing the Torn Restored newspaper, and said, "Okay, I've got a newspaper here. I'm going to rip it." And as he does, this load that's hidden in it goes flying across the room. Everybody sees it, bursts out laughing. He turns to Bob and says, "This is your fault."
So he blames Bob.
him.
Yeah.
So
people who blame other people
redirect the conversation to the issue at hand,
Yeah.
not personal accusations. Blamers don't take responsibility for their mistakes, Axl Rose, but immediately deflect to what you did wrong. Now, beware of sudden topic changes and point them out. I can't stand that. People who just jump around topic to topic. Uh-oh, topic change detected.
Yeah, that's a good line.
Overly competitive people. Everything's a freaking competition. I can't stand that crap.
Yeah.
You're pretty competitive in sports.
I am very competitive with my own skill level, but I couldn't give a crap who wins the game.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm extremely competitive in backgammon.
Yeah.
I just had some time last night, and I just cut holes in people's nether parts.
Yeah,
Just,
I bet you
just
did.
Destroyed
Yeah.
them. But I did lose one game. I resigned one.
When people are too competitive, though, one thing, I just like, okay, you win. You win.
Yeah. That's good.
Just easy.
Acknowledge their achievements, but avoid engaging in one-upmanship and competition. Keep the focus on collaboration. Collaboration, everybody benefits.
That's a really good point.
Everybody benefits.
If somebody is, yeah, you know what? You played tremendous there. If I were you, I'd feel really proud of my performance. Just like give them a compliment. That's legit or something.
That's nice, yeah. And the other thing, too, is you can say to the person, you know what you're really good at, even more than that? What? Being competitive when there's no reason for it.
Yeah.
And that's funny, isn't it? Spinning it back.
Yeah.
When my wife won the best garden in the entire greater Toronto area, the entire GTA, 3 million people, she won the best. It was presented to her at City Hall. Now, she's let it go fallow now because she enjoys the creativity, but not the
Right.
maintenance. But she won. And so she announced it to someone close to us and said, oh, I won the best garden in the entire GTA. He responded by, oh, so-and-so, Maureen won a garden award. It was the best garden on their street.
Right, yeah.
He puts it on the frickin' table. Like, it's the same. You know? It's just unbelievable. So I think my answer to that should have been, I just was so stunned that he put it on the table. I'd be saying, and you really think winning a garden among 12 houses, the best garden, is the same as the best in the city of Toronto?
But then you're just, you're someone else is looking for attention.
I know.
And you come across as dickish.
Dickish, I know.
So
That's
it's
the
better
problem.
to just say freaking nothing. Go, hey, that's
But you know what?
fantastic.
I'm perfectly
You know?
prepared, and I know you'll agree.
I didn't
with this.
realize we had so much in
I'm perfectly
common.
prepared to
Yeah.
come across as dickish sometimes.
I know you are.
Not, but
Yeah.
most of the time, I want people to be happy.
Yes.
And I won't say what happened. You may recall I was backing that PT Cruiser in at Eglinton Square, and I missed the spot and I had to pull forward, and I missed it again because you can't back up well. There's no lines of sight. It was bad. Backed up. I get out. There's 3 guys outside the bar.
Oh, yeah.
All
And
in
what'd
their
they say to
40s.
you?
The guy said, maybe you should consider taking a driving lesson. And I made eye contact and said, maybe you should consider.
And then you said something, very funny. Yeah. And then they
shut up because I was so over the top.
But let's get back to, that you're not opposed to looking like a dick sometimes. But,
Wait, I
but not
didn't
all
say
that.
that.
No,
I
the
said
question
I'm not-
is, do you
I'm not
really
opposed to
believe? Do you really believe that?
Shut up. Unreliable people, Chris. Unreliable people are next.
Okay, how do you deal with unreliable people?
I was going to have, like this Friday, I get stuff I have to have ready. And I promised you it's going to be, and it really will be done.
Oh, yeah. In case you're wondering what that is, we're recreating the entire course that we currently name the Nuvi course. It's been free for a long time, and we're making it way better.
We always raise the bar. Why?
we go.
Because we care
And
about
if you have it, because it's been free for a long time, you get the new version for free too.
Correct.
There you go. All right.
So if someone's unreliable, you can't count on them. They promise this, they promise that. Clearly state your expectations.
Yeah.
The importance of reliability, making eye contact, get them to agree. And check at the end of the meeting, even if it's a casual one, check and go over the points. So what have we agreed on? You're going to do what? Get them to say it
Let's
back.
actually, this is a perfect example where you had a lot going on, and I think I hadn't done a good job of communicating that this was a top priority thing.
Right,
so
right.
all I had to do with you is say, all right, look, this Friday, look is a good, all right, this Friday, we need to record this course.
Right.
The only thing that I care about in the next few days is that you get this and this and this done on it so that we're going to record it.
Right.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
And I'll say, is that fair? Can I count on you to focus only on that? Nothing else matters.
Right.
And you'll say, yeah. That's clear enough,
That's
right?
very clear.
So,
Which leads us perfectly timed to the next one. People who chide you publicly for...
Mike is very reliable. In this particular case, you had a lot on the go.
I know. We had a
and I didn't do a
family
good job of
tragedy
communicating
happen.
that this was actually the priority.
All cool
it was
now.
my fault. But once we agreed on that, there we go.
We're good.
But there are other people who are very unreliable, and notoriously, you will have to say, this is my expectation. Is that fair?
Right.
Can I count on you to do this?
Yeah,
And
that's
they say
good to
yes.
know. What about people who are non-calibrators? They're not picking up the signals, the communication signals that everyone is sending. As we say in Mike Mandel Hypnosis, ABC, always be calibrating.
Right, calibration.
Noticing shifts in their facial expression, their breathing, everything shows you something has changed.
It is a heart of the Mandel method of hypnosis.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
And if people aren't calibrating, they don't know that the conversation might be over. and they'll start again or open another
Yeah.
loop. The classic is the Ken Sweatman stories that abound.
What do you
What's
do?
an anxious-looking hand grasping? What is that?
My
all
hands are
about?
actually cold.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. What do you do? Because for me, we are in great rapport all the time. If I'm failing to calibrate in a moment, you can just go, calibrate. It's like, duh, blah, blah, blah. Yeah,
You need
okay.
to calibrate my concern. What do you mean your hands are cold?
My hands are just cold because it's a basement.
Do you know
So-
mine
yeah.
are warm. Do you know what that is?
Fire energy.
No,
You
hand
said.
cancer.
Oh.
Okay, like I gave the example of non-calibration. The
What
guy
do
who-
you do with someone you don't know very well when they're not calibrating? How do you fix that?
Well, you have to break their pattern
Yeah.
right away. And I like the answering the call.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
don't have to do the
Henry
one.
Kissinger one because he died. You
Yeah.
can't do that
Sure
now.
you can.
Yeah, I
Makes
guess
it
you
even
can. Makes it
funnier.
even funnier. Yeah.
But yeah, you've got a pattern interrupt people. And if it's someone you know and they're off telling some story that you have zero interest in, I'll just pause and say, just for a second, before we move into the second 30 minutes of this story,
Yeah.
is there going to be any point to it that I can take home and benefit from?
See, he's not afraid to look like a dick sometimes. I love that.
I'm not
though.
aggressive,
That
I'm
is so
assertive.
fun. That is a funny one. Especially when you're doing it to a friend who gets it. Like, oh yeah, I'm slipping
Crap,
into
we still
I'm
got
slipping
six-
into a Ken
We still
Sweatman
got
story.
6 or 7 to go through.
Yes,
here.
and
Okay.
it's oh my goodness, we need to wrap this up in. Let's just pick 2 more and then we're done.
Okay.
Okay, and we'll slip the remaining ones into the next episode for fun.
Okay.
All right.
Here's one. Here's we'll throw in. Let's talk about defensive individuals. People
Okay.
who take things personally.
Are you talking about me?
Yes. Instead of giving them direct criticism, instead of you did this, you did this, you did this, use I
yeah.
statements instead.
That's
It softens it.
brilliant.
You say, I feel that this could have been handled a bit differently. I
Yeah.
feel this could have been that. Or in my view, this could have, instead of
buddy.
you did this. That's a very
Such
powerful
a good
thing.
point. So the simple message is instead of saying you said X, blah blah blah, bring it back to you. I
Right.
heard. You don't even want to say I heard you say. I heard it. I heard what? How? I was.
I heard it as.
Yeah, I heard instead of I heard you say because that's
Yeah.
another you. That's
Yeah.
not good.
To me, this
I
sounded
heard the
like-
message
yeah.
that whatever the
It's
message
using yourself
was.
as the reference. It's
Right.
going through you.
And what I'd really like to know is, and then you can ask a question or something else. But yeah, flipping the you into I is a really powerful concept.
It reduces perceived attacks and lowers defensiveness. The last one we're going to do is shotgun thinkers.
Okay.
People who change topics and jump around, especially when they're losing a discussion. And I had this with
Spatial anchoring.
I had this with Paul Moyer. We had a theological discussion, and he was just circular reasoning. I could not break him out of the circular reasoning. He'd just go round and round the same thing. And then when that wasn't working, he just changed topics. Shotgun. He'd talk about something else to change,
Yeah.
make his point. I said, that's nothing to do with this, what we're talking
I know
Then talks about
another guy who does that with anything
me?
to do.
Is it me?
I think you know exactly who I'm talking about. I'll tell you at lunch because I'm not going to get into it here. But yeah, we're talking about a thing and their argument's not working out. So they bring up some kind of unrelated, but in their brain somehow it makes sense that, well, but the government's always doing this and that or whatever, and then they'll come like it's related and it's not.
Yeah, one of them said to me, he was going through a problem with his girlfriend, and they were arguing in front of us, and we were trying to calm everything. And he said turned to us and said, "It's like with protons and electrons and neutrons." I said, "It's not like that at all." I said, "This is something you've been reading lately, and you're trying to force it into the conversation."
Yeah.
He said, "Well, I'm not a linear thinker." I said, "Yes, but you're using linear sequential language to tell me that you're not a linear thinker. You're not putting the words in whatever order you want." It said, basically, you're telling me that you cannot be logical and follow
Yeah.
a train of thought, and
Yeah.
that stopped him doing it.
I think that's a really good point. So the shotgun thinkers, my strategy has typically been to just call out in front of the other person. So right now we're talking about this. And
Yep.
before we move on to that, which is another interesting topic, and I'd
Right.
love to talk about it, let's settle on this. And then every time when they do it, just spatial anchor, just bring it back. I understand that. That's a really interesting point. Love to talk about that next. And never
And
but.
I'll take it, put
And
it
boom.
aside
Yeah.
and say, but here's what we're discussing right now. And
Yeah, I do it the other way. I just I'm bringing the topic of conversation back between us.
That's nice.
Right? But I like both are very good. When they bring up an interruption, you go, yeah, that's cool. We'll come to that later, right now, and then point to the thing we're talking about.
Beautiful. And shotgun thinkers, they change the topic and jump around when they're losing a discussion. So when people
Yeah,
are
never when
losing,
they're winning.
they change the terms of the discussion and
Yeah.
to one they can win on, even though it's completely unrelated.
It's like the guy playing chess with you goes, hey, I'm winning. Let's play checkers now instead. Never happens,
What's
right?
that?
No, I'm just saying, like, nobody who's winning in an argument or in a game.
Yeah, change the topic.
Imagine you're playing a game of something with somebody. Nobody who's winning goes, "Oh, I'm winning. Let's change the game."
That's right.
Yeah.
The cure for this, and we'll make this the last one, be relentless in systematically bringing things back to the actual point. There are people who were in my life, and God be eternally praised, they're not anymore.
What'd you do to them?
No, who is it? And you literally would have to diagram on paper the discussion to keep them on topic because they jump around. And when you have an entire group that does that, it's you're in a freaking fun house, but except it's not fun. Be relentless, gently but firmly. Bring them back to the actual point. Don't interrupt them as they go off in their tirade, but raise your hand if you have to stop them talking so you can refocus.
Hold up the red flag.
Oh, yeah. We need a green. We need some green ones, buddy.
Yeah,
we needed them for the meeting yesterday. So give us the empowering question, Chris.
All right, let's go with our empowering question for episode.
I need to go eat off.
248.
Yeah.
Which of these types sound like people I have to deal with, and how will I apply stellar communication skills to keep things on track?
Beautiful.
There you go.
And my Metafive, which is one better than a metaphor, is the dentist keynote speaker in Chicago. Years ago, I was at, when I was getting, it must be 1992, 93, one of those 2 years, I was in Chicago for a corporate function. And the keynote speaker was one of the worst I'd ever heard in my life because his communication skill was not working for him. Whereas people typically make a point by getting more intense or perhaps a bit louder. It holds attention. He did the opposite. And you know this story. To make a point, he would get quiet. He was a dick. That's all for this week.
Thanks again, guys. I'll just give you a quick wrap-up comment, and then we'll end it.
I'm putting this back
Mike
away.
Mandel, hypnosis.com. We've got our upcoming Architecture of Hypnosis class in May. It's going to be fantastic. It's already...
Great new set.
Oh, it's
new
filling
location.
up.
Yep.
Yeah, there's usually some space up until about a month before class. I don't know what'll happen this
Come
time
to
around.
Toronto.
The interest is very high. So make sure that if you're interested in hanging out with us and learning hypnosis and personal development and doing some awesome stuff, making great friends for the week, we get professional therapists. We also get just smart, everyday, motivated people who want to learn this stuff because it's a lot of fun. Come and check it out. MikeMandelHypnosis.com. You can check out the events link. That'll get you there. You can also just join the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy where we hang out in the MMHA Engage group, which is our community. Mike and I are in there engaging with people. We do bi-monthly. Is that right? Yeah, bi-monthly. We do a Q&A session and a topical call. We do 2 live Zoom events every month. There's amazing training in there. It's a fun thing. You learn a lot of awesome stuff, and it's really, really affordable. So that's all I wanted to say, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks again.
once again,
and
good night.